Hello everyone, welcome back to Abs.
Anything but sports.
I am your first host for today, John.
And I am your fourth host for the day, Sawyer.
And today we have...
Andrew Breed.
Yay!
Woo!
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here today.
Well, that is a pretty quick story, actually.
Oh.
So there was an event that I saw on Facebook. Someone recommended. It was a film pitch, ATL. So it was my first, kind of film pitch gig that I had ever heard of. And I have been doing background work in the film industry over the past year. And I was just curious because, I'm trying to transfer a little more into speaking roles and getting into that side of acting. So I decided to go check it out, and that's where I met the two of you.
Yeah. So what did you think about that film pitch event?
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. I really wasn't going into it with too many expectations.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I'm more interested in the acting side of it. Mm-hmm. So I think it wasn't necessarily 100% intended for people like me. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was good. It was neat to hear the critiques and some of the pitches and hear some ideas about, what people want to make and how to go about it and what they talk about. But it was nice. And, I got to meet you guys. So really the socializing, networking afterwards was great.
Yeah, that's my favorite part as well. Yeah. So, how did you end up in Atlanta? Are you from here originally?
I'm not. I'm actually from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, I met my current partner up in Michigan. She moved up to Michigan 8.5 years ago. And we ended up meeting about 6 months after she moved there. We ended up moving into the same apartment complex, totally coincidentally.
Yeah.
And we spent, the next 6 years dating. And she decided to move back down to Atlanta because she's from Hapeville, just south of Atlanta, or in the southern part of Atlanta, I guess you could say. And I was like, why don't I go down and see what Atlanta's got to offer? So I moved down here.
Oh, wow. So,
Yeah.
So were you interested in film or media at all before you came down here?
Yes. So ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be an actor. Always wanted to be an actor. Because it's to me, I grew up watching a lot of Disney movies. I grew up in the era with Full House and a lot of those early 90s sitcoms. Hilarious. I always loved sitcoms.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to be an actor because I was like, well, I don't necessarily know who I want to be or how I want my life to go. But if you give me a character and a story, that's super easy. I can do that. I can do that all day. And then as I got older, dealing with issues like depression and stuff, there was a lot of kind of seminal movies and TV shows that I came across in my 20s that really made a big impact on me. And, I was like, well, if someone else can have this big of an impact on me through a character and a story, maybe I can do the same thing for someone else, and be involved in something like that myself and help people.
Yeah.
In that way.
So what were one or two of the most impactful characters that stuck out to you?
Characters are tough, but some of the big, I'd say the Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg movie, The Other Guys, was a really great movie. And when that came out, I was having some pretty bad depression issues, and it really I spent a lot of time. I've seen that movie a lot of times. I'll tell you.
Right.
And then Brooklyn Nine-Nine. If I could get on a project like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Parks and Rec or something comedic like that, and then even watching that '70s show, that came out when I was in high school. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is like so relatable, because even though it's set in the 70s, like they're doing a lot of the same stuff that I was doing as a high schooler too.
Yeah. So as a kid, you wanted to be an actor.
Yep.
But did you pursue acting or media in school and college and stuff like that?
I did not. So I'd been in a number of plays when I was in high school and middle school, and I played the viola for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So in high school, I was part of our symphony orchestra, and we did the music for all the musicals that were put on. So I was involved in, plays and movies, and I took a film class. And I was telling you guys before the show that my buddy and I had a film, like a wedding videography business. So we'd go film people's weddings, edit the tape, put it together, put their slideshow together, take pictures. And that was really my first entry into film. But there really isn't a whole lot going on up in Michigan as far as like acting opportunities, There were film credits up there like Georgia has for a couple years, but that didn't last long at all, unfortunately. So I came down here, and I moved right after Thanksgiving of 2021. And I was like looking for a job all month of December, and the only thing that would hire me was background roles. So I worked as background in a show called Stargirl season 3. And just like, dude, that first day being on set, I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And this is what I want to do. And then it's just kind of continued from there.
So at this point, do you think you could identify like what about being on set draws you to it so much?
So it's going to be a number of things, really. So the whole atmosphere of it, it's, in my mind, you're creating a world within, it's like a microcosm of the macrocosm, right? So you're creating a whole separate world of whatever fantasy TV show or movie you're trying to produce. And every day is something different. Every set that I've been on has had, you'll get some people who aren't super excited to be there or like don't love it as much, but most of the people there absolutely love what they do, like are super passionate about film and like love to watch movies and watch TV, and they're happy to be there. It's really a great kind of camaraderie atmosphere, and it's just a lot of fun.
So, well, for someone that is moving to Atlanta like you did and wants to get into background, what would you say to them? Like, what's the clear fire path to get into background roles?
I would say that Facebook is probably the number one place that I find background gigs. So you can register in Atlanta. There's a company called Central Casting that you can register with that will send you casting calls and availability checks for different shows. And they're a really big, well-known, national agency that has offices in New York, LA, and Atlanta. So I would say getting registered with them is probably a great first step, because they'll just send you stuff, and that takes a lot of work out of, searching for different gigs. And then outside of that, there's a lot of casting agencies that have presence on Facebook that you can follow, and they'll put up, different availability checks, and you can submit for different background roles that they're looking for people to hire.
Looking to the future, what would it take? Like, what situation would you have to be in for you to quit your CPA job? Or would you ever?
So my goal right now is actually to get a few years of experience at the CPA gig, so that if I needed to quit, or if the right acting opportunity came around, that I would have enough like experience to be able to fall back on it in case the acting thing didn't work out, or just for whatever reason I needed to. I think that if my dream role came around where I could be some kind of comedic relief on a sitcom like I was talking about, and the pay was right, I would quit the job.
Okay, what if you got offered a job, an acting gig, and the pay was like barely enough to cover your living expenses, but
It was a great role.
it was your dream role, but barely enough money to survive. You can survive, and you will, but it will be razor thin. Would you take it?
I would go for it. Yeah, I would totally go for it.
Why?
Well, it is, I mean, I'm good at accounting. I like it. I like my day job. But the passion that I have for being part of like this big creative collaborative effort, and really being able to affect people and make them laugh and smile, I think outweighs the positive feelings I have towards accounting, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
What is like a lesson or concept that being in the industry has taught you? Like something that you've learned in the past year?
I think that the idea of like FOMO for me was kind of a big thing. And what I've learned is that not every opportunity that presents itself is as good as you might think it is, like from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So missing out on opportunities can, in the long run, turn out to be a good thing. Like I had the opportunity to be a core background for a TV show, The Resident, here in Atlanta. And it would have meant quitting the accounting gig. And I ended up, at the time, I couldn't justify quitting the accounting gig. And I had to say no to being a core background on that show. And I was really bummed out because I was like, well, what if no one else wants me to come around? Or what if I would have met someone there who could have, given me some other better opportunity? And I ended up getting on the show a couple times as a regular background actor. And what I saw from the way the set was run was that I really didn't miss out on anything.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot. I used to say yes to everything. And everything that I literally could not say yes to, it ate at me that I was like, I have missed this opportunity. They're never going to ask me to do anything again because I had to say no to this and all these things. And then only recently have I'm still practicing saying no, and turning stuff down. But you have to. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. And it's like, I'm the same way. It's tough. It takes a lot of practice. And even when I think I'm good at it, like I still catch myself having to be like, all right, no, this is okay to say no to something, Andrew.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so what are your interests and passions outside of media? Like, what are some things that you care about?
There's a couple issues that are near and dear to my heart. So plastics in the ocean are something that bothers me a lot. And just plastics in any bodies of water. I think that we don't really understand the ramifications of what leaving all this pollution in the water is going to do and how it can affect us down the line. Because I think they've done studies now that, the vast majority of fish that we catch in the ocean and eat have microplastics in them. And we're in turn eating those microplastics. And I think I don't know what really needs to be involved in being able to do better about, cleaning the oceans up. But I think it's something that's really important. And in that same vein, just being more environmentally conscious as a species, because we don't really have another place that we can go to once we pass a certain point with this planet. So it's a big deal to me just being more environmentally conscious. And I'm not like a perfect person at it, but that and just the amount of food waste that we have in the world. There's no reason that anyone should go hungry. We have plenty of food, and it's just greed, I think, that separates people from having resources that they should absolutely have access to.
One of my huge passions, unfortunately, it is within film, but is the waste that is on film sets.
Oh, huge.
It's awful, and it is painful for me because I've done some PA work, not as much as John, but like I've done it enough, and I've taken out enough trash bags, and I've thrown away enough entire tables full of crafty and food and catering and snacks that are completely fine, packaged stuff,
Totally good.
not even something that's going to go bad.
Yeah.
Just straight in the garbage. And flying people around, like flying single people around from set to location to set, and like, oh yeah, I just brought these guys from LA because I've worked with them before, instead of trying to find
A
local
local
crew.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, it is insane the amount
Yeah.
of waste.
There's a lot of people who I've been on sets who come in from California, just to work temp jobs on these sets. Like, they'll come in and work for a few months, go back home, then they'll go to like New York to work on a set for a couple months, and then go back to LA.
One of my favorite stories that it's sad, but it's also funny, is we were shooting this scene where one of the leads, the character, falls down a flight of stairs. And so they brought in a stunt guy, obviously. And so they flew him in, and he arrived that morning, and we picked him up and took him to set. And he got on set, and they said, "And action!" And he rolled down the flight of stairs 2 times. I said, "Okay, you're good." And he went right back to the airport in less than 3 hours and got on a flight and went home.
No
Wow.
way.
Isn't that crazy?
All he had to do was fall downstairs twice.
Yeah,
And they got it in 2 takes.
It looked very real. He did a really
awesome.
good job. It looked very painful, but yeah, he was in the state of Kentucky for like less than 3 hours probably.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
What's something that you enjoyed working on within the last 6 months, or within just, recently?
Megalopolis was a lot of fun. That was Francis Ford Coppola, Shia LaBeouf, Adam Driver.
Oh wow!
It was a really big production, and it was really neat because I'd been on a lot of sets, but this was like a whole nother level of big productions. Just the number of people that were involved in everything, the number of staff or people on the production side of things was, I think, the most that I had ever seen in any other movie or TV show that I've been a part of.
Wow.
And really, obviously those are all like big named people, and it was just really interesting to see how similar and yet kind of different things were with a bigger budget production like that.
Yeah. What did you find were some of the similarities and differences?
All the things that you need to have happen are all kind of pretty consistent. Lighting, sound, costumes, but the people that they brought in to be part, like the costume lady, was a very eclectic Italian woman who I guess had worked on some really big budget things before, back in like the 70s and stuff. And so she's a really big deal. So the level of professionalism and seriousness that was brought to things like costumes was on a different level than a lot of what I'd seen before. So I guess, everything is similar in that, all these parts are needed to make up the production. It's just the level of care that they got and the level of professionalism involved with them was different.
All right. Andrew, how would you define success? And has that definition changed over the years?
Yes, it has changed over the years. I would say when I was younger, I really wanted success to be, like, in my mind, success was being able to take care of myself and having a job that paid enough money and, you know, gave me enough to be able to take care of my family or something. And the more that I've gone along in life, I think that there are a couple different levels to life. And the barely scraping by or just surviving is perfectly okay. And that is a level that a lot of people are on. But I think that to really get to the next level, it's not only, okay, what am I able to take care of myself? It's how can I positively impact other people? And this can take a number of different like ways. So even just the way that I was talking about how I view acting is like, if I can make someone smile and laugh and, you know, put a positive memory in their head and give them a good experience, I think that's making the world a better place, you know, because it's definitely done that for me. Other people have done that for me. And I think that it's just like the next level in life, I guess, that I'm trying to work on now. Not that I think that I'm there yet, but that's where I'm shooting to be.
So would you say that your definition of success is when you get to the point where you can also help take care of other people and not just yourself?
Yes and no. So I think that I'm already there. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I don't, you know, I'm not a super rich guy or anything. But there are ways that aren't money-based that I can help other people. Like, I met this guy at Film Bar Monday a couple weeks ago, and he's the one, he came to the film pitch ATL with me, or he was there, he was going to, and we've given each other a lot of different casting calls and shared a lot of information with each other about just various aspects of the film industry down here. And it's been beneficial to both, like mutually beneficial to both of us, to have someone else on the lookout for things, or just have someone to talk to and, you know, bounce some ideas off of. So yeah, I mean, just being helpful, I think, in general to other people, more than just thinking about, okay, what can I do to make sure that I'm taken care of? You know, because like, you could be a millionaire or a billionaire, and after we pass on from this life, it's not like any of us are taking that money with us.
Right.
You know, so it doesn't do me a whole lot of good to have $1 billion sitting in my bank that's not doing anything
Right.
for anyone.
Yeah. I like that definition.
Yeah. So success to you is almost just the idea of selflessness, or the freedom of selflessness.
I think the freedom of selflessness is a good way to say that. And I'm in the fortunate position, like, I don't have a family or kids or like sick parents, and I have a job that pays my bills and my needs are met. So there are definitely a lot of situations that people have that are much more difficult and require a lot more. So yeah, I guess I'm fortunate in that way that I don't have certain parts of my life that are more difficult than they are.
Yeah. So do you feel like you are successful now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just being able to live a life. I really enjoy the life that I live today. Like, I get to come do a podcast with you two gentlemen, and this has been a blast for me. I really enjoyed having the opportunity to come be on the podcast with you guys, so thank you for that. Georgia's been great, and I am just having a blast with life right now, so I would consider things successful, personally.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you may be the most successful, self-definition successful person that we've interviewed so far.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I don't think anyone else has been like, yes, absolutely, I'm successful. So that's it's nice for someone to finally be successful on this podcast.
Yeah. It all depends on what your parameters are.
Definitely does.
Yeah, perspective. So if you could define the topics and themes and concepts from this conversation into one word, what would it be?
Uplifting, is that one? All right.
It's a new one.
Sweet. Let's go with uplifting then.
Why?
Because I think it's part of that whole definition of success that, like, we all are coming together, you know, like the example that you gave was perfect. You don't necessarily want to act or be behind the camera. You don't like to produce. And we're all, you know, kind of coming together. And if we can all help each other, we can do a whole lot more than if it's just us on our own trying to do whatever by ourselves. So I think if people got into the idea that helping other people also helps yourself and focused more on just trying to uplift each other and more people out there, then, you know, you could make a positive impact on the world.
Well, with that, I think that concludes our episode. So for those listening on Spotify, thanks so much for listening. Those watching on YouTube, thanks for watching.
We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Tune in next time, guys.
Goodbye.